Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Bone Podcast, where we discuss all things crypto market. That includes majors like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, meme coins, and of course, NFTs. Today, we're going to discuss the crypto flash crash over the last 24 hours and the massive liquidations that ensued. We're going to talk about how to play the DEX Perp Wars game. What tokens are we looking at amidst this market crash? And we have some massive news out of the DAT space. We got Tom Lee buying again. We have AVAX now entering the chat. Lots of interesting stuff here. Thank you all for listening. If you're listening on Spaces, give us a like, give us a follow, give us a bookmark. If you're feeling extra kind, give us a retweet, push us out in the algorithm. If you're watching on YouTube, let us know what you want to talk about today. Give us some comments. We'll pull them up on screen live. I'm joined today by Signal. I'm joined today by special friend, special guest, co-founder, CEO, host of the Modern Market podcast. Modern Market, absolutely moving in the world today. How you feeling, B-Check? How you doing?
Doing great, my man. Thanks so much for having me. Looking forward to be with you today. Looking forward to have this conversation.
Absolutely. If you don't watch the Modern Market, you need to. 7 a.m. Eastern every single day. They tell you how you can make a lot or a little, or is it a little or a lot of money in the crypto market.
And how to lose it if it's like this morning.
Well, I mean, it's just as much of a skill when you win it as you lose it. You know, Clemente has made the losing in public quite a spectacle.
Turned it into an art form. It's an artistic form that he's perfected.
Yeah, for sure. So, BJ, tell us a little bit about yourself, Modern Market, how you got started in the crypto space for any of our audience listeners who may not be familiar.
So really quick whirlwind story, got into the crypto space in 2021, did not know anything about crypto, came in because of NFTs. I was a teacher before, then I was a lawyer, then I discovered NFTs, traded NFTs for a bit, pressed sell in 2021 and 22. That gave me some runway. Within 6 months, I'd quit my job. I thought, can't just trade JPEGs, probably not a long-term viable career, probably should do some media. So I started writing a newsletter. That turned into the daily update, which is the snapshot, which I put out on Twitter, which then turned into the daily show, which went on top of that. So kind of at first it was just a kind of media journey. Then it was with the trading as well. And now, you know, we're still trading a lot. We're still producing more and more media and doing a lot of kind of angel investing and airdrop farming as well. It's probably one of our specialities.
Yeah, definitely. If you're looking for emerging protocols, big brain analysis, you need to be checking out the Modern Market. B-Check, Legendary, and Bread Guy are the frequent trio that will be on that show, and you can get a ton of information. I know that's where I get a lot of my information from. So big time resource, 7 a.m. Eastern time. You catch them on, they stream across Spaces and YouTube as well. So watch them back if you're not up at the crack of dawn like I am. Sig, we've got some volatility in the market, some volatility with your camera. How you feeling this morning? How
yeah, good. Sorry. Finally figured out what's going on with my audio levels, had to click some buttons, and then now my camera just failed on me. So it's okay. It's okay. We have the backup, but it's awesome to see B-Check on the show. I always love listening to the Modern Market. You guys have some really great insights. My favorite was the one today. We're going to talk about that later, but B-Check was full mode tinfoil hat. But really enjoy listening to Bread on the technical side. Legendary, whose gambling problem is actually starting to leak on me. I managed to put I think it was like 1,000 bets on Yeet, and then I just went off and did my day, you know, just auto, and then came back. So definitely starting to leak on. But yeah, let's get into it, Ray. Did you want to kick off with the weather report? What are we doing?
We'll kick off on the weather report in just a minute. Before we do, we're going to let you know this show is brought to you by our partners over at Portals. We talked about this on the show on Friday. We've talked about this before. We're looking for plays in the market that may not be so obvious, maybe a hated rally. One play that has been moving over the past few months are these Telegram gifts. Pavel Durov, CEO of TON, over 1 billion monthly active users on TON, is shilling these gifts. You have gifts such as plush Pepes, commanding a 5-figure floor. It's very hard to buy these. There's a lot of friction. It's not very easy, but that's where Portals kind of comes in. They offer an in-app experience in Telegram. They are the #1 portal gift market in the space right now. If you're looking to buy plush Pepes like this one that sold for $94,000 over the last 12 hours, Portals is the #1 place to do this. So think of them as the OpenSea of Telegram gifts, essentially. So I'm going to pull up their little mini app here. Essentially, this is all in Telegram. Most people like buy these on mobile as well. Like this is almost like a mobile native platform. You can filter like anything else you would do on a marketplace, filter, sweep, etc. You can view different collections. This is the plush Pepe floor right now, sitting at 5,000 ton with ton over $3. This is the quote unquote blue chip of this market. This is a market that I need to dive into. I need to spend some more time researching, but I think that there are a number of comparisons linking this to sort of the NFT run we had previously. There could be money to be made, and like B-Check said, there could be money to lose here. But this is one that is kind of flying under the radar, and you should check out, at least to do a little bit of due diligence on. Check out Portals Market. It's the best place to trade these. You can go to bodoggos.com/portals to get to their Telegram, native Telegram. You can also follow them at Portals Market, bodoggos.com/portals to get right into that Telegram. That being said, Signal, why don't we kick it off with the weather report?
Yeah, absolutely, Ray. Let's get into it today. We have Monday, 22nd of September. Looking at that crypto roundup, the majors are down across the board with Bitcoin under 113, ETH just under 4,200, and Solana at 220, and Hype is back under $50. Over the past 24 hours, firstly, over 1.5 billion has been liquidated from traders as the total crypto market cap crashed 4% over the weekend. This event caused the largest daily liquidation candle for ETH and Sol since summer of 2023. So that's why everyone is panicking. Next up, there was some large announcements coming from DATS as Tom Lee's BMNR acquired over 1 billion worth of ETH over the past week and now holds over 2% of the total supply. This morning, we saw Hive Mind Capital announce a raise of over 500 million to establish an AVAX treasury. This represents 2% of the circulating supply of AVAX. And then finally, Perp DEX took over the timeline as they saw a 10x in mindshare over the weekend. This is all led by the run of Aster's DEX token running from 140 million circulating market cap to 2.5 billion over the past week. It's been a runner, but that is all for the weather report. It is back to you folks in the studio.
Excellent weather report as always, Sig. A lot to unpack there. A lot to talk about. I guess #1 is this crypto crash that we're seeing right now. I mean, markets 4% down across the board when you're looking at total market cap. Lots of majors on dips, meme coins on like bigger dips. Alts are down. The only things that seem to be up are these the tokens that have been getting attention over the last week. The DEXs, and some of them are still down as well. B-Check, I would love to get your kind of pulse and your take on like what this dip feels like. Is this like the beginning of a larger like downturn, do you think? Or do you think this is potentially somewhere where you can be scaling into positions that you might have been eyeing at the top and we're waiting for a pullback on?
I think a couple of things. I think on the last dip, on the way down from 124 down to like 108 or something, my position was, I think these dips are for buying. Felt pretty confident. This is towards, I think at the start of September or something like that. I was much more keen to buy them, not in like, full port size, because I feel like we're moving along the cycle of to a fair degree. But I was feeling fairly comfortable, like, okay, let's buy some of these dips at least. One of the other things I've been saying, which is relevant, is that in the summer, you had this opportunity for a lot of coins to just come out and get all the attention. Sorry, not many people launched, and so for whichever tokens were live and got kind of with a hot narrative, they had the free run in the summer to do well. The issue I think we're facing a little bit now, when you're considering buying dips or like redeploying profits into anything, frankly, is that there are certain known things which are going to happen in the next week or two. For example, Plasma is coming out on Thursday. That's like a big known event that is coming out. It's the token which is, I wouldn't say necessarily entirely aligned with Tether, but Paolo from Tether is like a backer. And so a lot of people are considering that to be something like maybe not the Tether chain, but like that's kind of one of the ways people are thinking about it. It's trading at an billion, maybe around $8 billion FDV on pre-markets. So there's things which are known like that, like Mega ETH, which are going to come and going to take a lot of attention, going to take a lot of capital. And then there are unknown things like Aster over the weekend or just a few days before that as well, which is going to completely take us by surprise. And I feel like knowing what is coming down the road, plus assuming that there will be things that I don't know, which is always wise in crypto, it means that I'm not as confident redeploying into anything because I know that attention is getting less and less quality, and people are more and more are getting faster and faster to like redeploy their capital elsewhere. And we kind of saw that with Pump, right? We saw that with Pump when Pump going from being like reasonably undervalued or very undervalued at 3 bill FDV and 4, shooting up to almost 9, and then it's kind of just been dropped now down to 6-ish, where maybe it's fair value. Maybe it's fair value at 6, probably undervalued in the long run, but who's going to come in and buy that up right now to send it back to 8 or 9 if you have Plasma coming out, if you have Mega ETH coming out, if you have like these known things coming. So yeah, that's my general thought.
It's a wicked drop off on Pump from that high last week when everyone was saying like, oh, this is the new paradigm, creator capital markets, the flywheel. It's been almost down only since the peak euphoria of the weekend. This is a crazy chart to look at. I think I agree and disagree with some of your takes there. I want to get Signal's opinion too. There's always been tokens to rotate into. I know there is a lot on the horizon that is coming. I know you said we have XPL this week from Plasma. We do have these bigger launches, Mega ETH, Monad on the horizon, OpenSea airdrop, maybe a Pump Fund airdrop, all these other events that are going to have like liquidity suck potential. But I feel like we've just always had that sort of like competition across coins. Like we see new coins coming up every day. There's thousands of tokens that are at $100 million market cap. My thought process is seeing DATs come in and just allocate. Like that's going to eventually funnel down to these on-chain traders who are doing the rotating. And I think it's going to be like a positive sum game. Signal, I'm curious what your take is on this downturn. Are you looking at this as a buying opportunity? Are you more concerned here and maybe trimming?
Yes, it's interesting because I saw a tweet earlier in the week, and I can't remember who it was from, about how much options were going to be expiring this weekend. And when I'm just looking back, a lot of the narrative this summer was about interest rates and what is going to be happening in September. And there was so much speculation, first of all, over whether it will be a cut or whether it will be a raise. So that was like part one of that story. And then the second part of that story was, would it be 50 basis cut after J-hole, or would it be 25? So there was all this like, speculation momentum of like coming up to that event. Now that we've had the event, if you look at, say, the odds on Cauchy, on Polymarket, you're seeing that what is being priced in is more rate cuts happening in October. It's as if the rate cut story is kind of like, yeah, we're done, right? So the next question is like, well, what is the next thing to happen? Going back to Beechek's point, what is the market now looking at? What the market is now looking at is potentially bad data coming out, which is why I think we're starting to get this shakeout. Personally, for me, I'm going to stick to the stuff that I have highest conviction in. I'm not going to be selling that. But what it has made me reflect on is, you're seeing stuff which has been undervalued pump really hard, such things like Pump, like Aster, etc. And then that capital just moves somewhere else. And there's two things to think about. One, you can never underestimate how large that capital is, because for most of last year, all that capital was sitting on the sidelines and not doing anything. And now that capital is here to work. So I feel as if the next opportunity, even if it might not be 100% clear now, that capital is happy to be deployed. Whilst last year, it was not being deployed into any meme coin, or a whole bunch of people were like, I'm just not doing the meme coin thing. And now the narrative has changed to protocols that actually do something, perp trading. It's a much more like stronger traditional crypto narrative, which I think a lot of people can get behind. And what I'm seeing on the timeline is like a lot of people are saying, okay, we're fatigued by meme coins, but I do think that this sort of like protocol protocol tokens, things that actually have revenue and actually do things, people are willing to get behind. So I'm not underestimating the flow of capital that be willing to support that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. You'd mentioned that we have we are kind of looking for like the next narrative. Just taking a quick look over the schedule for this week in terms of major macro announcements. We have Fed Chair Powell speaking on Tuesday tomorrow. We have global manufacturing PMI, not as important as just pure PPI and CPI. But then we have US GDP coming out Thursday. So maybe some of the scare off is potentially around GDP missing, seeing some issues there. Maybe there's calls for stagflation. I just don't think that a whole lot has changed in terms of like the overall picture of the market. Like we were waiting for the rate cuts to begin. Like rate cut season started. It looks like we're going to get 3 cuts at this point. We could see bad news. We could see shifts there. But like right now, the market is telling us 3 cuts this year, one in October, one in December to bring us down 3 over the year. We have all these tailwinds from crypto regulation, like still pushing from behind us, haven't been realized yet. Like this legislation is still being pushed through. People are still developing on this new legislation. I read Vitalik's post about DeFi being like the Google search moment for crypto. And in there, he talks about how like under Gensler, people were incentivized to not give promises, to not deliver utility, to not have revenue. Like the more ambiguous your product was, the safer it was from securities laws. So now that we are going to a world where you can innovate in the US, where you have a number of these builders, I feel like we just have barely scratched the surface of a bull run. And I feel like we're going to continue to see new protocols pile in, new reasons to jump in, more money coming into the space overall. So that's kind of like my general like pulse on the market right now. And I do think dips like this are for buying. And I'm not really sitting here and like losing sleep over my positions. And it could just because I'm positioned in assets that I just trust, that are almost multi-cycle assets.
And just to add to your point, Ray, I think like looking at, even though all tokens are sort of pulled back, I think you need to look at like why each token has pulled back. I think if you look at something like Pump, unfortunately for me, has just not solved the problem of having content on their platform, which I think most people don't want to watch. Like, I'm sure you saw what happened to the guy who had cancer getting scammed, right? So you saw that. I've seen some just really weird stuff on there. And I'm like, okay, I get, like, I think the story of CCM totally makes sense and I get it, but they haven't put the incentives in place for people to come who want to create content and not have it linked to a token. They just want to be able to like create content and not have the pressure of having to have a token to go with it. And I think like that's a narrative that Pump needs to figure out. And if they can figure that out, I do think they can actually execute the vision that they say that they want to do. And then if you go into the perp markets, if you look at what Binance is trying to build, what Hyperliquid are doing, and you're seeing this being copy pasted across every chain, I think when you look at that, is right. Okay, do you think perps are going to stick around for the future? Yes. Will there only be one dominant protocol? I don't think so. I think there'll be probably 3 or 4, which are the best. And so positioning yourself there. So I think every token right now has a strong narrative, and I think it's about picking the winners and doubling up on them, even in dips like this.
Yeah, speaking of perps, maybe we can just kind of transition a little bit over this direction. We saw Aster with their unbelievable run. Did you get into Aster at all, Sig?
Yeah, I did. I got in, where was it? Around 0.39, I saw it. And I thought I was late because I saw it on the timeline. And when you see anything on the timeline, you are exit liquidity. And then I saw it so much. I was like, what is this? Quickly researched, saw the narrative. And I was like, I'm not late. I'm just not. I'm going to bed. And when I woke up, it was 0.49. And then Aster did what Aster's going to do. And I'm going to hold this position right now. I think it's a really interesting narrative being built here of Hyperliquid versus Aster. And I think that alone is enough to keep it in the dialogue. Normally, when there is an underdog or a behemoth going against Hyperliquid, the narrative disappears in 1 week. We have that with Coinbase, nothing happened. There's been like a lot of nothing burgers. But this is the first one where I'm like, this narrative could stick and it could be a very interesting battle.
And your thoughts for why Aster would stick over some of these other ones? Is it purely the Binance and the CZ backing?
Purely that. Purely that. I mean, the guy is pretty much like one of the founding fathers here, right? So, and this is like Hyperliquid is going after Binance's market share. And I don't think that they're going to sit there and just do nothing about it. And so for me, this is like whether it has dark pools, doesn't have dark pools. Like for me, I don't care. Like I really don't care about that. For me, it's like you have CZ here. In the same way that when we did the meme coins, when Trump came out with it, it was just Trump. You didn't need anything else. And I disagree with what Thread Guy was saying about this is a praying strategy. I feel like people who are maybe not veterans of the space and have been around for longer, like before 2021, or new people in the space before that, can actually speak to what kind of founder he is. And this is why I think it's such an interesting product, simply because it's backed by Binance, but I do not think it's a praying strategy at all. But Bishek, you were talking about this on your show. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really relevant. It's like, whilst on the product side, people are kind of complaining like, oh, this deposit doesn't work or the withdrawal doesn't work. As you say, it doesn't really matter at the moment. And as Ray alluded to, like the reason why this is going to be meaningful is because it is backed by CZ, and it's, I guess, a de facto like Binance product, even if it isn't in name. It's the thing that they are going to put their weight behind in order to come up with some type of competition with Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid's been eating its share of on-chain trading. It's just like accelerating aggressively. It's done amazing over this period of time. I've been significantly allocated to Hyperliquid for that reason. But yeah, as I was alluding to in our show this morning, like CZ's not. I think CZ does like a couple of interesting things when he sees like worthy competition in some way. Like if you cast your mind back to 2021 and the episode with SBF, I think CZ and Binance were kind of intertwined in that. They own significant FTT tokens. One of the other headlines on our show this morning, which I think is relevant just to get a sense of this thinking, is that they've signed like a deeper partnership with Athena, for example. So it's like whenever someone is doing really well, and this is like a strategic move, talking about strategy here, put the product aside, like whether you consider them an ally or whether you consider them an enemy, the point is they're really, really good, and CZ wants to own a portion of their business as part of that. And I think one of the things I've been wondering is to what extent CZ owns Hype, the token. And I think it's just an interesting thing to think about, because I think if from a strategic perspective, they would have accumulated a lot. I don't think it would have made any sense to not do that at all. And so this kind of, and I think conversely, it would have been smart for the Hyperliquid team to accumulate some of this one. I don't know whether they did. I don't know whether they didn't. But I think this is going to be a pretty head-on competition, and it's definitely it's going to be super relevant for the rest of the market, because when Aster moved in the way it did, you see what we saw today. And I think the two things are linked. That the market got so hot and so aggressive, and people made a ton of money, and then maybe they went off and longed a ton of other stuff. I don't know precisely, but the excitement and fervor around that move probably accelerated this downfall. Whether we were supposed to correct anyway, maybe that was the case, but I think it's definitely worth considering.
Yeah, I think to an extent, I buy that we were like kind of going down the risk curve. We were like over leveraging a bit, leading to some dump. But I don't know how many people like the percentage of majors owned. I feel like it's just mainly at this point, it's corporations, it's treasuries, it's people acquiring, and it's maybe old whales selling against it, like who are up pretty big on the profit. I don't know like what percentage of people are rotating down the risk curve. I know like when we look at crypto Twitter and we look at everyone that we're trading with, like obviously we are moving all up and down the risk curve at like a regular basis, but I just don't know how indicative that is of a wider snapshot of the overall market. Looking at this,
I think the point there, Ray, I think one of the things that I've been doing personally, and I'm getting increasingly confident with just like thinking that might be indicative of other people, is I am going down the risk curve, but I'm going in and out, and it's faster and faster and faster. And when I'm coming out, I'm asking myself the question, I'm asking the people in my Telegram, like, what are you doing with your wins? And usually it's just sitting in it at the moment, because when the market starts to get this fast, people get more kind of protective of their capital, because they're like, well, I don't know if I want to get into this thing, because it might be another thing tomorrow, it might be another thing the next day. And I feel like that's what's happening a little bit, at least from my personal perspective.
Yeah. From my perspective, I'm essentially rotating wins directly back into majors I believe in. I'm like in that part of the cycle. I do have like a dry powder like bag of stables in case like stuff really hits the fan. But most of my profits, I'm basically just rotating into like Bitcoin and Hyperliquid. I'm doing an LP on Project X, and like any wins I get there, most of that is
same one. It's a good LP.
Yeah, it went out of range, so now I'm a very heavy Hyperliquid holder right now, which I'm happy to be. And I'm kind of curious here. Like, I have this line drawn on this chart, just like basically showing this level, a trend level on Hyperliquid. We wicked below this. This is making me a little bit concerned here. We do continue to see some red. Like, I'm at the point where I'm not deploying any more capital in the Hyperliquid. I can't sit here and be like, oh, this dip is for buying. But we are like popping off of this trend line. Hopefully we get a bounce. I know earlier this year, maybe 3 months ago, we were like a $50 hype, and then and we're out. Or like people were saying like $50 is the target on hype, and we just basically have had ample opportunity to exit above $50 if you traded early. You had all the time in the world to get in under like 30, under 20 if you even wanted to on hype. So how much of this is profit taking? How much of this is overall market? But yeah, I'm actually like kind of like upset that I'm just holding so much hype right now, because I would like to buy more here, if that makes sense. Which is like a weird scenario to be in.
I just think that, but Ray, like in the narrative of there's going to be a number one, like in stablecoins, it's Tether, it's Circle. In perps, like that narrative of number one and number two. Number one at the moment, obviously Hyperliquid, and then number two is kind of like still to be decided, because I think that's moving. I think buying dips on protocols that you think can become the number two spot, because it's not decided who will be number one. I think like that's the thing. It's not like majors where Bitcoin is number one and then we know what the rankings are for 2, 3, and 4. I feel like in perps, that is still to be decided. At the moment, it's Hyperliquid, but that could change, and that's why I'm interested in holding number one and number two, and just being flexible around it. I think that's what I saw last week, was a lot of people married to their bags, and a lot of inflexibility to not even consider the fact that a Binance founder is coming out with a product, and it might be ass, right? I saw a lot of that, like the product is rubbish, yada yada yada. But it was more like this is a strong contender to be number one, and that's how I'm thinking around different sort of pillars of where to allocate in more risk, sort of like where to allocate in tokens which are more down the risk curve. I still think Pump, even though it's had this horrible pullback, if the team decide to change direction, could go back and actually get some of those gains. I'm holding as well, just in Project X, just LPing. So if it goes up, great. I catch that up. If it goes down, then it goes down. But I think there's ways to participate in the upside or the downside of these different narratives whilst farming. So you're like, helping your future self without having to have a stance point of view that leaves you sidelined. That's what I saw last week. Many people sidelined because they weren't willing just to be flexible around their point of view around which protocol could win.
Yeah, I think there's a few things there. Buying number one and number two makes sense. I bought Aster. I bought it live on the show the other day when we talked about it, and I sold it for a very small gain. I sold it like under 65 cents or something. I ended up trading it again when it launched on Hyperliquid. I got stopped. We talked about this as well. I got stopped out at the pico bottom and never just re-entered the position at like 55 cents. So that like hurt. But then over the weekend, I spent some more time looking at it and like kind of figuring a mental model in my head. And I was like, I need to be exposed to Aster if I'm going to be exposed to Hyperliquid, because, A, they can both grow, or B, if Aster is taking Hyperliquid's market share, I need to have some sort of hedge against my Hyperliquid position. So I end up getting some spot and leverage Aster over the weekend at prices way above what I paid before, just because, hey, I need to have some sort of downside exposure on this other bag. So I'm still holding Hyperliquid, holding Aster, and then I've seen other people even go further down the risk curve. I know people in the Modern Market Telegram and the Bodoggos Discord have been talking about going further down the risk curve. Did either of you guys get into the Avantis trade on Polygon, I believe? Or is this bait? This is base, right?
No.
I mean,
so this was. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is done really well. You can't argue with the trade. I don't see anything that is on an L2 to be taken seriously in this kind of bigger conversation. I think it was an excellent trade, but when you're talking about like trying to knock off Hyperliquid, it's not going to come from any of these down here. How far have we scrolled down here, right? Like this is the 200th something biggest protocol. Like this is not the serious conversation. Although, as I said, great trade. It can get repriced. So from that perspective, good trade. I'm just going to share in the private chat here, Ray, this chart, which is where I guess the serious conversation is taking place and why you probably want to be exposed to both of those things. This is the spot Bitcoin volume by venue. And it shows obviously Binance is still number one, and Unit, which is the protocol which is bringing all of these spot assets to Hyperliquid, whether it's UBTC, UETH, USOL, UFartcoin, all of these assets that were not native to Hyperliquid, Unit has brought them over. And so that spot Bitcoin volume now is at 704 million last week on this day that this graph was capturing the volume. And that's more than all of these other venues. So it's more than Bybit, it's more than OKX, it's more than Coinbase. So second only to Binance according to this data. So I think this is the thing. This is why the fight is so severe at this top end, and this is why I'm watching this kind of conflict very, very closely, because there's a lot at stake from that perspective. And I do think there's there's ramifications for this.
Yeah, that's interesting. More than Bybit and Coinbase combined for Unit is pretty crazy. I missed the tinfoil hat from your show earlier this morning, B-Check. What was that? Was that in relation to the CZ basically looking to position Aster against Hyperliquid? Was that the general topic for that? I'm curious to hear what that.
Well, I think I went off in a variety of directions this morning, but one of my thoughts is from a purely strategic perspective. If you wanted to assert some type of power over another protocol in the same way that I think there's precedents of him doing, we just said literally in the headline today on Friday, Easy Labs announced partnership with Athena. So they're deepening the ties with Athena. So that kind of partnering up with this very promising protocol. I think they owned a lot of FTT back in the day when FTX would have been considered a competitor to Binance. I just don't see a world in which they don't own a significant amount of hype as well. And if you own someone else's token, as everyone knows, when you're a whale in a chat, whether it's back from the NFT days or whether you're holding a ton of supply of a ERC20 or a meme coin on Solana or whatever, that person or group of people have a lot of power over the protocol or the team or whatever. So my line of thinking was just okay, why is this coming out now? Why is Aster being pushed now? It's actually been out for a while, is my understanding, and in the East, it's not a secret at all. But why is this the right time now? How much hype do they hold? Obviously, you've got the Hyperliquid unlocks, which are, I believe, in November. It's either next month or November. That was one of the reasons given for why Arthur Hayes, after giving some incredible price prediction for Hyperliquid, decided to sell all of it now and just saying, we just don't want to deal with the potential sell pressure. So I think, could these things be connected? I don't know 100%. Do I think that if you were a strategic person, Hyperliquid should take a position in Aster and Aster should take a position in Hyperliquid? I would be spending money to do that if I was going to be being super strategic about it. So that was my, I don't know if it's entirely tinfoil hat, but that's just one way of thinking about it.
Just
Yeah,
to, sorry.
Go ahead, Sid. You got it.
Okay. So I had two responses, but I've forgotten the first one, so I'll do Arthur Hayes. So it's interesting. I have a friend who runs a hedge fund, and I'm always interested to know what's going on in his world. And one of the things I always ask about is like, what is your performance? How are you guys doing? And I consistently joke with him that I'm by myself. I'm managing to outperform his hedge fund, even though he has a substantial team and all quants, all real quants, not like the fake quants. And I joke about it, but at the end of the day, a fund's mandate is to be able to generate returns for their clients, and they don't have the luxury of being able to just sit there and say, I'm going to hold this token until 2028, and if it goes down, it doesn't matter, because the overall performance at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year, it will be down, right? So that fund needs to be able to trade in and out, so they can actually capture the performance and the return that their clients are looking for. So I don't take any sort of malice in this statement that Arthur Hayes said that they sold, right? Because it's the fund's position. What I do think is weird is that he did come out with that tweet and say it's going to go up over 100% and you should be holding on to this. And then he goes and does this. Like, that's his personal position, and then there's the fund's position. And when he did that tweet, like, you weren't quite sure who he was speaking who he was speaking as. And I think that's why so many people have got annoyed at this tweet about hype. But like, in general, Hayes does stuff and sometimes he's wrong. I think recently he sold like a huge bag of Solana just before the DApp buying started. And then his next tweet, like 10 days later, was, oops, bad timing, I shouldn't have done that. So it's not like he gets, it's not like he's always right. So people don't need to become like, oh, ooh, he's sold. But, one, he's representing a fund, and two, sometimes he's wrong. So if you believe in hype, believe in hype. Don't let your conviction or your thesis change just because he's selling.
Yeah, he's a tough one to crack. He has like a lot of these like weird sells that on positions he's been convicted about. Like he's posted long thesis and conviction and then sells these positions. I know he had one of the better takes on like what Trump was trying to do with the US market, with interest rates, trying to like cut jobs through the government to lower job numbers, to bring about faster rate cuts. So he's been like kind of all over the place, kind of a wild card. It's hard at this point to like borrow his conviction on these assets if he's so easily shaken out, which is like, I guess you have to make that decision about any information that you get. Curating your information flow is super important.
I just remember my other point. It was off the back of B-Check, what he was saying about CZ. Also, B-Check, I 100% agree with your tinfoil hat theory that he could have been accumulating his competitor's token. And the cherry on top would be he used Aster to do it. It's like there's a video circulating around about how if you're a trader and you want to short, you don't want the market to see you shorting that. And so you have these dark pools which basically hide it. And I think, on the other side, if you're accumulating, you might not want the market to know you're accumulating. So it really would be like using his own product to accumulate his competitor's token. It just feels like the kind of thing he would do. So I'm completely agreeing with you and getting my tinfoil hat on as well, that could be a possibility as a way to position yourself against your competitor.
Yeah, I think there are a number of theories.
2 out of 2, 2 out of 3, Ray. Put the hat on.
I've seen the post saying that he pushed Aster because he wants Hyperliquid not to be seen as a competitor to Binance, but a competitor to another Perp DEX, rather, to kind of frame Hyperliquid in that way as not a like threat to Binance, and to like kind of try to squash that narrative with this Aster play. I mean, that also, I guess could be considered somewhat tinfoil if that was kind of the goal.
Well, one thing I'd say about that though is I feel like it's the same as kind of how stocks and crypto are merging and everything is kind of becoming a bit more vague. In the same way, it's going to be like, well, is Hyperliquid a competitor to Binance or Aster or Robinhood or Coinbase? I think in the future, it's just not really going to matter. There'll just be these different venues, and almost anything will be tradable there. Like that's the direction we're going towards. Obviously, on Hyperliquid, when it first came out, it was just hype, and it was perps, right? Only. Well, it was just perps. Then the token itself came out, and then Unit started bringing all these assets, and there's plans for tokenized stocks and all this stuff as well. Robinhood, obviously, it's the other way around. It's this stock platform is more traditional investing, and now they're kind of pivoting aggressively into embrace crypto and leverage and all of this stuff too. So I think what we're going to go towards is just a universe where everything is tradable everywhere all the time, 24/7, and everything will ultimately be, I think, in competition with each other.
Yeah, everything is an exchange meta. You've got like the prediction markets coming at it from one side, tokenized stocks coming at it from another. You got the on-chain DEXs from one, and the centralized exchanges as well. So it's a matter of like who has the best UX, who can offer the cheapest price point, and who can have the most liquidity essentially to have good fills. So I do think I agree with you that that's where we're trending. I want to highlight an opportunity. I've talked about this on the show before. I saw you mention it in your roundup this morning as well. USD.AI is raising their deposit cap. So we talked about USD.AI briefly on the show last week or maybe 2 weeks ago. Instead of treasury-backed stablecoins, this is like GPU-backed stablecoins. So they're basically using compute, and they're renting that GPU compute out to AI companies, and that is pegging their stablecoin essentially. So they're lending out the GPUs. They're earning yield on it, and that pegs the USD AI token to $1. A few questions here. A, are you in this B-check? Did you deposit at all in this? Are you interested in this protocol?
So 2 things to say on this one. On the surface, this is one of those that like instinctively, it makes me think this is like one of the dumbest things that I've ever heard, when you're like thinking of like, okay, well, you tell me it's a stable coin, but you know, trying to jump on the AI meta in some way, renting out like different stuff and getting you some exposure and yield from something in that way. However, I will say that's like the instinctive reaction. Mm-hmm. The second reaction is, okay, I like looked into it. I saw who was backing it. It made more sense to me when I started looking into it in some way. Certainly a novel thing. I'm not in it at the moment, but I'm thinking I need to do more reading on it basically. And then I'm thinking of getting in on this one. And I know that like they've partnered with very good people. So basically I'm borrowing the authority of other people who have either invested in it or people who are happy to platform them. But I want to kind of be a bit more certain myself. But yeah, I'm considering this one.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that you're diving in deeper. I jumped in last week before, like they've been capped for a while at deposits. So essentially they have I think it's 250 mil TVL right now. They're going to up it 500. So they're basically going to 3x the size of their platform. This will essentially allow you to mint USDC on Arbitrum or ETH into their USD.AI stablecoin. They have a gamified point system essentially, where you earn points for either eligibility to participate in the ICO of this governance token when it launches, or an airdrop of it. And
they're kind of doing a plasma raise model. So it's like all the capital that you lock up will earn you points, which equals some type of allocation or an airdrop, which is exactly how Plasma kind of attracted all the money in the initial phase, and then it earned you XPL allocation.
Yep, exactly.
So I like that. I like that as a play, if that's how it works. So you're not only getting the yield, but you're also getting this future allocation, hopefully at a decent valuation. Do you know about the valuation stuff?
I don't know what the valuation is right now.
Okay. That would be interesting though, because usually maybe that would be attractive.
I think maybe the ICO valuation is listed here in the documents. I just don't know it off the top of my head.
It's backed by Framework and Dragonfly, and our favorite labs of the moment, Easy Labs, the one.
Oh, really? YZI
Labs. Yeah, YZI Labs.
Okay,
not a bad set of backers. High Framework, Dragonfly, and YZI.
Yeah, so I've seen a lot of YZI. Like I've been following them on X, and I see a lot of their investments, and I never really like gave a ton of credence to it until this Aster launch. And I think this is basically going to like skyrocket the like legitimacy and like you need to be paying attention to anything the YZI Labs invest in. So I'm glad
Probably,
that
but I'd definitely put like an asterisk next to that and say like, ultimately it's venture, right? So I'm sure it's going to give certain things valuations that they shouldn't have. And I would just be, you know, again, if you're in and out, then it's fine. I'm sure some of the stuff is great. Some of the stuff will obviously fail because that's the nature of VC. So definitely put an asterisk there.
Yeah. Everything's risky. It's all venture. 99% of ventures fail. It's just a matter of how it works. You just hope that the number of quality investors they have on this product shows they might have something behind the scenes that could work. Yeah, I'm interested in the new model, and like you can also like you were asking about like the model. You can earn yield on it and points, or you can just like max your points. There's like Pendle yield tokens for this. So like there's a whole bunch of different things you can do. I didn't mint because it's been locked. I basically bought Pendle yield tokens on the both sides, the ICO and the airdrop side, to kind of just max points and climb the leaderboard. So I'm not earning yield on I'm not earning like dollar yield. I'm more basically maxing points yield essentially is kind of like where I put it. And this wasn't like a large investment, just one of the darts that I've thrown, but I know I wanted to bring it up because they are allowing deposits. And that's like the easiest, simplest way to get involved with this protocol at fair market value, because a lot of the tokens you can buy on the market right now are kind of priced up above peg because there's a limited amount of the USD.AI minted and they have a cap on that.
Got it.
With that,
I think it's interesting as well, right? For people who are thinking about allocating or like the thinking of watching who associates with who is like, so a few days ago, they tweeted only a few days until USD.AI deploys to Plasma. So they're actually deploying on Plasma. And if you look at the type of people who Plasma have been comfortable to announce and work with, it's been very, very premium across the board. Like it's been Pendle, it's been Athena, it's been Aave, they're working with Vader Labs. So it's been very, very premium across the board. And so even from that perspective, when you're thinking of valuations and seeing what other type of quality products are available on a platform, like it gives me a bit more confidence again, like that maybe even that ICO could be more valuable than someone might initially think had it not been on Plasma, for example.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking of Plasma, that unlocks Thursday this week. Is that right?
Yes, I think. I think they go live on Thursday, if I remember correctly, September 25th, 8 a.m. Eastern time.
And you got in on this pre-sale, right?
Correct.
Did you do any of the? You weren't trying to hedge on the short, right? When they had the Justin Sun liquidation, you still holding?
Yeah, I'm still holding. I think this was one of the biggest no-brainer opportunities. So again, I went in really big on the deposit because that doesn't count as your ICO allocation. You earned points in order to get an allocation. So this will be a good one, I think, and it's being reflected in the price at the moment.
What's the market cap premium from initial price right now?
This is currently, so it's 500 mil FDV price of raise. So this is a 16x at 8.
Damn. That's awesome. What percentage were you able to get? Like, what percentage was offered based on your deposits? Like, how much of your deposit were you able to get into the actual ICO? I'm curious.
So let me try and think of the.
I don't want you to expose the numbers you put in, but like if you remember the percentage, yeah, because that's what I'm curious how much I would have had to put into this, the deposit to get
for every 100 grand you put in, you would have got 5,000 allocation.
Okay.
So
if you put 100K in, you got 5,000 of the token, you did 16x, you got all the way over to 80K essentially on 100K. That's pretty good yield.
You get your 100K back, right? You get your 100K back. You put in your 5, that becomes 80 based on the current price. So you'll end up with 180K return to you on Plasma. Well, obviously you're going to get the XPL token if you chose to sell it on Plasma. That's what you'd probably end up with.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great return. Absolute no-brainer. Way to crush that one. I don't know if I would have had enough size to put in there in terms of dry powder to lock up over that period. It definitely would have outperformed what I did otherwise, I think, though.
Well, this is the thing. It was an interesting experiment because it was the time when ETH went like 3x.
Yeah.
So there were certain people who, you can in some ways ask the question, well, couldn't you have just bought ETH? It's like, yeah, you can, but I think that's not how you construct a proper investing portfolio. Like in my mind, and I think when you're investing properly, like you'll have certain things that's like your liquid crypto, and then you've got your stablecoin proportion, which you are happy to do things with, and you've got a different stablecoin proportion, which maybe you're not doing anything with. And for the proportion that is for stablecoins with doing things, like this is the type of thing you want to put that proportion in, because you would never have gone and bought ETH spot with that proportion anyway, because that's just not like part of your planning, I don't think. So that's the way I would think about it.
Yeah, I think you look at a protocol, you make a decision on the risk reward, and then you take action. And it's not like you're comparing every asset versus every other asset. You just try to jump into the best trade that you think you can make now with the capital you have at hand. And also, like, yes, ETH went up 3x, but I mean that's pretty risky. I mean, putting 100K into a deposit for a stablecoin platform with the proper backers of Tether, where you say, okay, I'm at least going to get my 100K back. It's going to be sitting in cash anyway. Like, this is a fairly good risk-adjusted return on investment, where you're also protected against downside. Like, ETH could have done the opposite. We could have had, a crash instead of a 3x. So I think that makes sense. But yeah, it's always a difficult game balancing which plays you choose to be in versus others. And you're never going to make that decision right 100% of the time. And you just have to make the best possible decisions you can with the information you have. That being said, I know you're running up on time, B-Check. Is there anything you want to tell us? Anything interesting in the market, or anything you want to tell us about modern market, what you guys have been up to, what you guys have going on, how people can reach out to you, anything about the life of B-Check right now?
Yeah, so if people don't know, we go live every single day, 7 a.m. Eastern time, live on X video, and YouTube, and you can catch us on Apple and Spotify podcast too. One cool thing, which I maybe have previewed in the Telegram chat with both Signal and Ray are in, is we're due for like a big product upgrade. So we've done a little bit of a rebrand. It looks a little bit different to what it was before. It's about to get like 10 times better. About to get 10 times better, way more pro in conversations with producers and all kinds of other technical people on the production side. It's about to get better. It's just taking a little bit of time. Hopefully when the market tops, that's probably when we'll be ready to launch. But that's so stay tuned for that part.
Yeah, excited for that. Love the rebrand, love the new logo, love the new theme. I think it looks very, very professional. Thanks again for jumping on with us. Follow BCheck1 on Twitter. Follow Modern Market _ on Twitter. Watch them every morning, 7 a.m. Eastern time. Best way to wake up in the morning. Get all of the crypto news and analysis every morning from some of the biggest brains in this space. Thanks again, B-Check. Really appreciate you hopping on. We're going to have a bunch of other fun guests on this week. So make sure you stay tuned. We're going to surprise you with some good ones. Thanks again for listening today. It's been a wonderful Monday on the Daily Bone podcast. We do this Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern time. You can catch us on all major podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple. You can also catch us on YouTube. See what we're talking about in real time. Look at our charts. Look at our graphs. Look at our tweets.